Hi, my name is Michael Ankrah, founder of Hackner Education and creator of Focus ELC. Today I want to talk to you about an annual ritual that children in this country go through. Children around 10 and 11 always go through that, and that is their SATs test. You see, I read the book of Simon Sinek, and he was talking about how great leaders all think in a certain way, and they always begin with asking themselves why. And as a practice and as a teacher, I constantly do ask my children, why do you come to school? And I tend to get some really interesting answers. And I think one of the favorite ones I got was that if I don't come to school, my mom will be in trouble. Or, the worst case scenario, they tell me, oh, my mom will go to jail. So that the whole purpose for coming to school is just, if you like, to tick a box, to just make sure they've done something that they must do. The why is not sorted. And I think this applies to why do we do the SATs test? You see, going back to Ghana, when in Ghana, if you are doing the equivalent of SATs test, it was very consequential. It had an impact on the secondary school that you go to, because they use it for their test. It doesn't mean a lot, but it is used for selection. So at least you know the purpose. So people put in the effort because they know that I want to get this grade because I want to go into this secondary school. That's a given, that's fine, even though I do not support that. But here in this country, the SATs do not have that impact. In fact, the SATs serves two constituencies. One is the government or policymakers who use that to make a determination of whether educational policies are successful according to the numbers, and also for schools to look good. But really, if you ask a child in year 6, why are you doing SATs? They will struggle to give you a coherent response. And it's not because they are not clever, it's because there isn't really anything in it for them. And yet, children go through this ritual, and everything they do in school from the beginning of their education in primary school is geared towards this particular baseless, arbitrary, useless activity. And then what happens once the SATs are held, which is in the month of May, thereabout, it becomes open season for schools, most schools. Schools then get into things like end of year production. Some schools will go on residential trips. It's just a matter of activity and just doing a number of things. And really, in terms of real learning of everything that has been done, it's almost like we've ticked the box. So it's done. But if we think of lifelong learning, learning doesn't stop. You improve yourself as a writer, you improve your skill as a mathematician, you improve your reading skills, you improve, but you can only do that if you know what you are working on. But if it has all been arbitrary, just, what Professor Anders Ericsson calls naive practice, that doing so many things and hoping that something will work. If that is the practice, then once that arbitrary box is ticked, once you tick the SATs box, there is nothing. So what happens? The SATs are held in May, June, July, August. Children do not do any meaningful practice of any skill of a sort. And then they find themselves in secondary school in September. And then secondary school teachers believe that, gosh, what have these children been doing in primary school? It isn't what they have not been doing or doing, but really it's about what the system is about. And then secondary schools also continue. I went to my daughter's parents' evening and I was shown a sheet of green and red. Green meaning that these are the things she can do in terms of the assessment criteria. Red are the things that she needs to do to move her to a certain grade. And this is not learning. This is just about trying to work towards the test. And the whole educational system is one which is geared towards tests. And that is our problem. Because you see, the problem is this. If we are training children today who are going to live their adult life in 20 years' time, and we are setting some random test for them today, will that be relevant in 20 years' time? And I had a minister one time saying, with a, recent thing around fake news, said schools must teach fake news. When I heard that, I laughed because really, that explains the whole problem. Schools cannot teach everything. What schools must do is train people to become learners, to become responsive to their needs. So that, children are very savvy. If things go on that they are interested in, they are able to find the information. So it should be more about training them to know how to say, I am interested in politics and therefore I am going to do the right things to get the right information. Not that I am waiting for somebody to come and tell me what to do. So really, as a solution going forward, it is imperative that the whole paradigm of education shifts from one which is aimed towards assessment to one which is aimed towards learning. And this is important because, you see, Stephen Covey in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, explained paradigms to be like maps, okay? So if you want to travel to, say, Manchester, and you are given the map of Plymouth, you can get up early, you can get the best car, you can do all the right things, put in the right effort, drive at the right speed, but the end of your effort will lead to frustration, disappointments, and throwing arms in the air. Why? Because the map you had was wrong. And it's the same with our education. Our map is aimed towards assessment. And I've worked in this for too long. I would challenge anybody who thinks it's otherwise. Everything that is done is aimed towards passing a test, not developing mastery. You see, the good thing about mastery is this. Robin Sharma always says that once you inculcate the habit of mastery, if you know how to master one thing, especially in education, it is very easy, because education is one field, it's very easy to then go on to another thing and another thing and another thing. So learning itself is a skill that must be mastered, and then you do the application. And Professor Anders Ericsson, in his book Peak, gave a very detailed description of the process. And the ultimate, he identified 3 stages. And I think for most schools, what happens, I would characterize as naive practice. And Ericsson described that as where you do so many things and hope that something sticks. And then there's also the improved stage where you have purposeful practice. But then the ultimate is a deliberate practice. You see, if there is the practice of deliberate practice in a school, it doesn't matter if stats had come and gone. Every child knows what they are practicing. You see, if you come to my class, in maths, for instance, there are children who know that, oh gosh, we're still working on our addition and subtraction skills, and they practice that every day, deliberate. There are those who are doing different things, and then we build on and on. And it brings me to one thing, you see. Politicians always say this, that, oh, we want to go and speak to school leaders because school leaders know best. I am going to say this for a fact. School leaders do not know best. In fact, over 90%, I dare say, have not been in the classroom for a long time. And real innovation of education will only come from the classroom. I'm only saying the things I'm saying to you, not because I've read some book, but because I have actually developed these things from my work with children every day in the classroom. And that is the only way we can get innovation and improvement, and also get the quality of education that we need. My name is Michael Ankrah, and I hope you enjoyed this power session. I will be with you shortly. Thank you for watching.